All right. Before we get into the real meat of today, folks, there's something we need to discuss. The NPC TikTok trend is out of control.
I get it now. I'm on board with it.
Shrey, have you seen?
You enjoy it?
Have you seen?
Okay.
TikTok NPC trend Glizzy Overdrive.
I have recently viewed Glizzy Overdrive.
I'll throw it in for the folks.
Glizzy Overdrive.
Well, I'll throw that in like right now.
Think of the ice cream. Ice cream, so good. Think of the ice cream. Think of the heart me. I heart you too. Think of the glizzies. 100 glizzies entering Glizzy Overdrive. Increasing grip by 7%. We are locked in. Thank you for over 160 glizzies entering Glizzy Overdrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff is it's not good, folks. Not good for the culture, this NPC stuff.
No, the NPC trend is a real thing of what I was talking about, where if we had the internet just go down, all of the major cultural artifacts that everyone understands over the last like 10 years are just gone. Nothing exists anymore. The NPC trend is absolutely huge. Internet goes down, it's no one's gonna get that ever again. It's not gonna make sense. You'll explain it. Everyone will look at you like you'll be in the retirement home being like, "Oh yeah, there like people would just be guzzling those glizzies like they couldn't stop and they needed more bullets." And they'd be like, "Yeah, take your drugs, man. This makes no fucking sense. Your brain is on immediate repeat."
When the the American Great Firewall descends in the 2030s, and the United States is cut off from the rest of the world's internet, I think global mental health will improve dramatically.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, we're probably going to be part of that firewall.
You think we're gonna get an?
So we'll just
let us into the Great Firewall.
Yes, I think we'll be isolated from everyone else with the Americans.
I think it would be pretty funny if the Liberal Party was in charge in the 2030s, which I'm sure they will be. They tend to be in charge pretty periodically. It would be pretty funny if they did like another CanCon bill where they just went full Great Firewall, only Canadian internet.
Finally.
Honestly, no, what we need to do is we need to take all the conspiracy theories that people have about the Chinese internet and just make sure that they apply to Canada.
What conspiracy theories? Like you can get disappeared for making Winnie the Pooh jokes and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that stuff is always good, but also like the idea of in China they only show like educational content, so if you're grinding that TikTok you'll end up smarter, and in America they're just doing their little dances. I know a lot of guys complain about that.
I forgot about that conspiracy theory. I guess there's a lot of layers.
Which honestly, like, I don't know if I'd call it. Well, I guess it is a traditional conspiracy theory, but with how we talk about conspiracy theories now, it may not necessarily apply because it seems reasonable and believable.
I mean,
what's a conspiracy theory? What is it?
First of all, conspiracy theories are not necessarily false, and they're not necessarily crazy.
Yeah.
But it is like unsubstantiated, and doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole.
Though I feel like the label of conspiracy theory now is people just going insane and losing their minds and just saying shit that makes no sense.
Yeah, but in the past there have been. I think a conspiracy theory is just any really unsubstantiated rumor about a conspiracy. Right, like I think the allegation is that the Chinese government is using the fact that they like basically own that company that makes TikTok to like stick their fingers in and like manipulate the algorithm to make American kids stupid and fat. But the thing is, I don't think American kids need help becoming stupid and fat. I don't know if the Chinese need to really be. Listen, Xi Jinping, if you're listening to this. If you are doing that, it is a waste of government resources, and you should probably focus on like the fentanyl conspiracy theory again. I think that more. I think that one has better legs. You know, the one where the Chinese caused the opioid crisis. I feel like if that's true, that is a much more masterful move.
Yeah. No, I found I didn't get short form content until I found the I Need More Bullets guy. And that one is a masterpiece. The idea of being in the trenches in World War One, and it's just a guy yelling, "I need more bullets," and instead of shooting, just twerking in front of a camera. It's the ultimate Zoomer World War III bit, and I can see it in the trenches. If I'm in the trenches, that is probably what I will see.
Oh, speaking of World War One, should we discuss the Battle of the Somme-esque conditions afflicting Burning Man attendees in our international segment?
Well, you know what? We're here now, so let's just go with it.
Okay. Shrey, did you hear about the goings on at Burning Man? I don't know if this has been resolved since.
I heard there's a huge rainstorm or something, and no one could get anything anywhere.
So okay, there was a huge rainstorm, aka like 2 centimeters of rain. But since Burning Man is just in like a dune or some shit, like a flat somewhere, it essentially created just 2 feet of mud. So everyone going to Burning Man essentially showed up naturally. There's like a trillion gazillion rich people. And they were all ready for the party of their lives, and instead they got vehicles, even like Jeeps, that are just getting buried in mud. They started running low of food and water. No one could leave because everything was too muddy. The mud was like too much. I think they still burned the man.
They did still burn the man. So the situation was resolved 5 days ago, but they were stuck over like a weekend, and they had like run out of supplies like food and water and had to have it shipped in. They couldn't like really get in or leave easily because of the mud like trapping most of the vehicles. At one point, a leftist podcaster, the Trudeau guy, spread a rumor maliciously that Ebola was spreading through the Burning Man camp. Which caused like a panic at the grounds because people thought it was real.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Now, when you say food was shipped in, like, did they airdrop it? How did they get in?
I don't know.
I do know that some celebrities were rescued by helicopter.
They must have.
Oh, wow,
They must have done like
never
a
mind.
Berlin airlift style thing. I don't think the people were ever in any serious danger because Burning Man attracts like Silicon Valley people, like people with actual money that the government cares about. So it's just funny to laugh at them, but I don't think they were ever in really any danger. They were just inconvenienced in a very funny and public way.
Yeah. I will kind of maintain this is kind of a peak of rich people going out to party and then just getting bailed out. Honestly, this is kind of like my whale watching take, where everyone should be allowed to whale watch. There should be no licensing or anything. But there should be no large vessels. You should have to go out in a rowboat a maximum of 14 feet and do it yourself manually. And that way, if you want to see some whales, that's on you. You know, you have to do it yourself. And, you know, God help you if something goes wrong. I think that's what should happen with Burning Man.
Burning Man should have no logistical support. You just go and you either live or die.
Yeah, essentially.
And you just burn man, yeah.
If you want to go out to Burning Man, which is literally built on the fact that it is such a bad place to be logistically, then you should deal with that shit yourself. This is like, it should be anarchy out there. That's what it is built to be like, and they should get that.
That is true, right? The original goal was to be like this communal hippie
Yeah, it was
kind
supposed
of,
to be like a hippie
you know, we
thing.
can live together.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a hippie thing. It became like a Silicon Valley thing instead over time. I mean, there's still probably hippie
Bros, my
gatherings.
party got gentrified.
I think there's still hippie gatherings of that vein, but you won't hear about them on social media, you know?
Yeah.
I think Burning Man should go down to its roots. Yeah, what Spencer said, no government support at all. To see how it goes.
No, actually, what we should do...
Yeah.
Actually, how about this? Opposite of that idea. Maximal government support for Burning Man. Like, they build, like, a highway to the site. The government, like, sets it up. We have the whole party or whatever. But at the end, a random selection of partygoers are put in the Wicker Man when it's burned.
Oh, shit. It's like a cult piece.
Yeah, it's like a symbolic culling of America's annoying
every single year it is the biggest party. You at the end of the 15,000 people that are there, one gets put into the Wicker Man. So there's always the risk. You get the best party of your life, but there's a chance.
And attendance is compulsory if you make over a certain amount of money a year.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's like the baseball strategy of every single strikeout that happens over the year, whatever chance you said.
1 in 40.
Every single strikeout gets put in. Yeah, 1 in 40,000 chance that when you strike out, you're just shot on spot.
Yeah. It would liven up the game.
Look, this podcast was made just to ensure that we do not get any government positions when we grow up.
All right, let's start.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna make it. We're gonna be the prime minister, and the first thing we're gonna say is, "Hey guys, you thought of those Blue Jays games over there?" And people are just gonna start digging up the evidence from back in the day.
Sorry, the idea of just like being at a game, the guy strikes out, instantly shot.
Well, it's not instant. So the source of the charade was there was a baseball there's a post on the baseball subreddit where a guy was like, I have an idea to liven up the game, and he gave this really detailed breakdown of a way to make the game more exciting by including a random chance to kill players. So this is already out there, I think, in the zeitgeist. I don't think we'll get in any trouble for this. It's already public. I think it's already public knowledge.
This is mainstream.
Yeah, this is pretty mainstream, I think.
This is far from mainstream, but
yeah. Let's start the show.
This is mainstream for our stuff.
Yeah, let's start the show. Poilievre.
Fine.
Or no, let's not do Poilievre. Let's start with the recession. So, I believe the Canada's GDP growth has gone negative for 1 quarter. If the continues into a second quarter, Canada will formally enter a recession. Am I correct?
Now, I do want to say our recession is technically 2 quarters of negative growth or whatever. This is negative 0.2%, which for periods of slow growth is essentially just part of random noise. But Shrey had some reasons to believe that there might be more coming.
So, okay, I do want to say, I don't know who gets to decide if we're in a recession or not. The reason why I say this is because StatsCan says that the economy is decreasing or contracting, but everywhere else I've searched about the recession, everyone else is like, no, we're not going into recession, we're fine. Canada's still growing.
Well,
we're good.
You gotta understand.
Well, the vibes need to be right.
These financial newspapers and stuff have a fiduciary duty to keep the vibes hot, right? They can't be like, impending doom, divest from the stock market. That will make things much worse.
Like, it's generally confusing. I don't know who gets to decide if the economy is contracting or not. There's like different people are saying different things. For example, the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC, says we're going into a recession soon. But I'm looking at other reports like the OECD, and they're like, no, things are fine. We're still growing as a country. StatsCan, who I think is like, who I believe in the most of anyone, said that the Canadian economy did contract by 0.2%. And a lot of this is because the housing investments have decreased by 2.1%, which meant that overall construction has dropped by 8%.
Guys, how the hell are we gonna have construction dropping right now? Like, even if you're not a supply and demand pilled guy, like housing construction kind of needs to be happening right now.
Well, there's a decrease in investment, Spencer. So what else can you do?
Yeah.
The private market is struggling right now to make houses.
I have one idea. nationalize it.
Yeah.
But
the government
you know,
do all
that's
this.
wartime measures. Bring nationalization back, seize the entire housing market, fix it briefly, and then if you're still a capitalist, give it back to the private market. That way they know that if they keep on like fucking it up and and keep doing that shit, they will just lose all of their profits.
So it's interesting because the one of the reasons, the biggest complaints the private market has been saying about housing is that the interest rates have been going up and up and up, right?
Yeah.
And so building a house is becoming more and more expensive, and being able to borrow money to build a house is becoming more and more difficult.
That is what I have heard, is that house building is no longer profitable, which is astounding. How is that even possible?
Well, I think okay, well, a couple things. One is I have to bring up Ricardo a little bit here. Because he dropped some heat back in whenever the fuck Ricardo was writing.
Like the 1790s.
Where look, he went
For
to
the
another
audience,
school, you know,
One
you
of my
might not
favorite
know.
Marx facts is that Marx basically learned English but with a German copy of Ricardo and an English copy of Ricardo and kind of comparing them.
Sorry,
yeah,
who's Ricardo?
so-
What's Ricardo?
David Ricardo was an early capitalist economist. He was from like the era of Adam Smith and stuff.
Okay.
His most notable, I guess, achievement is essentially creating the labor theory of value. Which is, I think, Marx is given most credit for, but that's just because Marx used the labor theory of value generally in describing capitalism and its function. But Ricardo is essentially the guy, like Smith came up with an initial idea, Ricardo refined it, and then Marx kind of refined it even further, but yeah.
Interesting, okay.
So one thing that Ricardo said was that the end of capitalism will essentially happen when rent-seeking behavior is the only way to really derive profit, and through rent-seeking behavior, it will make it so that actually producing something real is no longer profitable. So you will end up with essentially only bullshit, like, rent-seeking behavior, prices just being put on shit that people will never own or whatever, just ways to extract value without any real production that makes people's lives better. So in 2008, what was interesting was capital essentially recovered and won out on 2008, but it wasn't even all capitalists that necessarily won. There was kind of a split. The people who won were the rent-seeking capitalists, who essentially were just, deriving value out of shit that didn't need to have more value derived from it. And that, because of the tendency of the rate of profit to fall, makes it worse for other capitalists around them. So 2008 happened, the rent seekers won, and we can kind of see that it's all rent seeking now. Like, all the houses are just like being bought up for rental property and value added from the land. So when the rate is low, what happens is investors buy up housing and use it for rent seeking, so the investors win, and workers lose. And when the rate goes high, you end up with regular people unable to afford any housing because they can't take out loans because they're more expensive. So the workers are still losing, and now it's too expensive to build houses because it's all just rent. The rent seeking is where all the money's at. You can't actually build something worth anything. It's not profitable anymore.
And when you say rate, you mean the interest rate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have some added notes on the interest rate from my favorite politically neutral economist, Richard Wolff, which is essentially just him saying that, like, the rising the interest rate is not the only way to actually solve these crises. It's just a way to punish workers, make it so that everything is more expensive, so workers have to go down to only buying the basics, and then that should, in theory, slow the whole economy. But for the most part, workers were already just kind of buying the basics, so it's just smiting poor people. So yeah. Yeah,
well, rising interest rates is meant to cool down the economy as fast as possible, right? Which is what's to fight off inflation. But we're getting in a really interesting place now where, because the only people who can build is private capital, but it's too expensive for private capital to make a profit off of it. Instead of, I believe a lot of private capital just makes money off rent, like you said, which means that
Yeah.
they're already making money just by keeping and maintaining what they have and just increasing that price.
Yeah.
I mean, a new development is not exactly worth doing right now.
Yeah, and if you already own property, there's a market, there's a financial incentive to prevent more from being built, right?
Exactly.
That's like the whole political project of the post Great Recession, I guess, Trudeauites has been slowly ballooning home equity for their base of real estate investors and homeowners.
Look, everything's great right now.
But I think
Yeah.
now the Canadian government has confirmed they're now looking, and I think I mentioned this before, but looking at getting into house building again. I think that's more or less necessary. If it's too expensive for private capital to do it, and they're not incentivized to do it, who else?
Yeah, there's only really one other actor in the market economy, unless you want people to go around building houses from scratch themselves, which is
I want
really
favelas.
anymore. You want favelas? That's the only other
yeah.
option. It's like
I think that's what we need. If we want a real culture, Shrey, if you want real culture, what we need is completely unregulated housing and just create entire slums of it. And then that's kind of the breeding place for culture, you know?
Which part of Toronto do you think will fall to favelas first?
First part of Toronto will fall to favelas?
Which one will, or which one do I want to fall?
Do you want to fall?
Oh, shit. Probably Etobicoke.
Yeah, fair enough.
I feel like the
I
feel like the Lakeshore.
I think it would be funny.
The Lakeshore is ripe for favelas. You know, it kind of has like a Brazil vibe to it. You know, it's right by the water. And like
honestly, I think Greektown or Lakeshore are the most likely. Etobicoke and Mississauga are the ones I want to see most.
I think maybe Don Valley would be a good choice for favelas. Think about it.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's a valley.
Don Valley.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So you could have
Hogs
Don
Hollow.
Valley.
You could have favelas going up the two sides of it.
Well, fun fact: Don Valley is actually the birthplace of the Canadian suburb. They were one of the first places to have a planned suburb. It's this whole. They have like a whole historical plaque in the middle of it about it.
Well, we can keep this going. Birthplace of Canadian favelas. We'll get a twofer. My great grandpa was one of the first like suburb move-in people for the mills. And he's in textbooks and shit. I need to be the first one to just start building favelas on my land, right across from an elementary school. Surely no one will. I just doxed myself. surely no one will stop that.
Yeah, you really narrowed down where you live to with across the street from an elementary school, and grandfather was one of the first settlers of Don Valley, and that you live in the Don Valley.
Up yours in textbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now people can find me if they need. Dab me up.
To all our listeners, Spencer is sending you a coded message to go to his house and kill him.
Yeah.
Actually, first person to do that will get to replace Spencer on this podcast.
Oh shit!
True.
That's awesome. Yeah, you'll get my computer. I've written it in my will.
Whoever slays Spencer.
Okay, so maybe we have to go through and censor a couple of things in this episode. Sorry, Bennett, I got too cocky.
I'll see if I remember. Maybe I won't.
But yeah, I just want to add on to this that just because the economy is doing bad doesn't necessarily mean it's doing any worse for you. And just because the economy is doing good doesn't mean it's actually doing necessarily any good for you. The economy, as in being measured by the GDP, at this point is generally just kind of a rich man's game. The numbers to keep an eye on for the most part right now is inequality. And as the GDP tends to go up in kind of capitalist societies, inequality also tends to go up, which means that you're not getting it either way, fellas. It's I'm sorry.
Actually, I want to add to that. So there's an interesting research paper which came out a couple of years ago that talked about the 2008 crisis and who is really hit hard by that. And what's really interesting is the fairly rich were not really impacted. They had especially richer in real estate investors were fine because they had capital to leverage, and they had some things to keep as a safety net.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people who were considered most subprime, aka the ones who were most at risk and were poorer, were also not as heavily impacted, especially if they owned if they owned one house, they were not heavily impacted
Mhm.
because generally in that stage, you're already constantly living in a recession. You're living in paycheck to paycheck. The
Yeah.
people who were most impacted were the middle class who were buying like a ton of houses or whose entire equity was based in their homes.
Yeah, they got overexposed.
They got overexposed, and they were the ones who were crushed by the recession.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of you're either wealthy. Yeah, we're kind of getting into the time where oh shit, I hate to break out the economics terms, the K-shaped stuff, whereas you're either getting way richer or you're getting poorer. Very few people right now are staying somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
I was looking at something where it was like, this is American numbers, 2004, money is worth like double what 2004 was now. 2004, $40,000 was like a pretty freaking normal wage.
Yep.
And now the equivalent to that is $80,000. $80,000 now is a pretty freaking good wage.
Yeah, that's like almost 3 times the American average, $80,000.
Yeah,
I think the American average
and
is something like 33K or something like that.
Jesus Christ,
Let me
that
look
shit's
it up.
awful.
Let me look it up. It might be higher than
I know our median wage is probably like 45 to 50,000 or something.
So while Ben is looking that up, here's some information on just where the economy is going. A very, very, very quick crash course in 2008. And what happened, which caused a Great Recession, was that people were getting loans and were getting mortgages that they couldn't afford. And a lot of the middle class, especially, were buying way too many houses with this, 2, 3, 4 houses. And so they didn't have enough wealth to back these houses. And so when the prices started to crash and people weren't buying those houses, all their equity was gone. All their investments into like 4 or 5 houses was gone.
Mhm.
What's really interesting right now is that Canada's seen its subprime borrowers, basically the people who are least likely to be able to pay off their mortgages, increased by 9% to about 2.7 million Canadians. Or about 5% of Canadians are now considered subprime or not able to pay off their mortgages.
Okay.
And
That's
this is,
awesome.
this is double the rate of growth for prime borrowers and 4 times the rate of growth for high quality borrowers.
Okay.
What's also fascinating and horrifying is that the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, basically the government agency which watches out for housing and mortgages in general, said that over 60% of mortgages currently are over 25 years. Which
Damn.
basically means that when you're getting a mortgage, it's better to get a shorter mortgage because you can pay it off quickly. But you can only do that if you have enough money to pay them your monthly or yearly mortgage. But now people are getting so desperate that more and more mortgages, 60% of them, are over 25 years to pay it off.
Yeah. You're
I
buying
mean,
you're buying a coffin.
thought at this point,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly,
I thought at this point that like 30 years was just normal. But you know, that's just because I'm a young lad. I've only grown up with this. 30 years should not be normal.
Yeah, it used to be like 10 years was normal. The U.S. median income, by the way, according to the United States Census Bureau, was $31,000 US.
Wow.
Good lord.
Now that's different from the average salary because salaried employees make more. Salaried employees average $59,000 a year.
Okay.
And the average household income, where 2 people are both working, is $70,000.
Yeah, so it's a little bit over 100 or about 100 Canadian.
Almost $40,000 in 2004.
Yeah.
Or whichever the exact date was. But that brings me to I actually was going to bring up the housing crisis later, but we really skipped our way over here. So rent seeking and the housing crisis. As a little heads up for everyone, I managed to lose all my notes for this episode. The program I use to sync my notes and all of that synced to the old version away from the new version. It took my phone's older version and just got rid of everything. So I don't have all the numbers, but this was a pretty funny number.
Classic Spencer.
Look,
thing to happen.
technology does not work for me. It never has. It never will. I spend so much money just trying to get technology that everyone's like, this will never break, and it still breaks every time.
Spencer is the.
I'm kind of used to it.
Spencer is the opposite of a chrome thumb.
Lead.
But yeah,
a lead thumb or
rent...
a rust thumb.
The housing crisis. So in rents across Canada now average over $2,000 per month.
Yeah.
$2,078.
And that's for a one.
The worst place. Yeah. Yeah, the worst place is North Van, where the average rent has passed over $3,500 per month.
And these are for one.
Which is
units, right?
I believe. Yeah.
Brother, you have to pay
which,
me
bro,
to live in Vancouver.
Yeah. Bro, 3,500. Like, I loved Vancouver. I thought it was great. I like the mountains and I like walking. So it's a decent spot overall. There are definitely some gripes, but for $3,500 per month, I will never go there. It's like no one will ever go there. Apparently, people still are or something, but good lord.
So generally speaking, your according to the CMHC and StatsCan, your rent should not be over 30% of your income, which means if it's 3,500, it's about 126,000 you're making per year.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So the minimum income someone should be making in North Van is what, 130,000 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for like a one bedroom person who wants to rent should be making $130,000.
And
yeah, not couples.
According to StatsCan, the average salary, you want to take a guess at it in Vancouver?
50 to 55.
Yeah, let's say around 60.
It's $61,000 a year. Entry level positions.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Wait, entry level positions, which I assume is the people renting one bedroom apartments, $41,000 a year.
Love it.
Yeah, and the upper like top 1% of earners in Vancouver earn over $144,000 a year. So
the top 1%.
Yeah, so like the best.
Only the top 1% can afford a one bedroom rental.
Yeah. What the hell, boy?
That's insane. Thing of learning to code as well. One of the things I've really been enjoying recently has been, everyone said, oh, if you want to make money, learn to code. And I was like, oh, okay, go to university, learn to code. So I went to university and I learned to code. And in my time at university was the time where everyone started coming out with coding boot camps and like short-term coding certifications, all these like easy 2-month applicable ways to learn how to code. And then I finally got through university, and now learning to code is no longer a very profitable adventure necessarily. It's just kind of like an average job. It's been de-skilled. And I've been vibing with it.
I mean, it's, I guess from an individual perspective, it's unfortunate, but it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Programmers don't particularly work much harder than the average person. There's no reason they should earn so much.
They probably work much less than the average person, honestly.
So, friends, rents are exploding. Mortgages are impossible to get unless they're 25 years. By the way, the maximum the government allows in Canada is 35. So, if you're already pushing 30, you can't really get much better than that. And housing prices are going.
Let's get a house when you're young, and literally you'll pay it off when you retire.
Yeah. Listen, folks, what we need is someone to save us. We need a Marxist. We need a communist administration. And
you're right.
As His Majesty's loyal official opposition has pointed out, we already have one.
Ooh.
Let's talk about Pierre Poilievre's slandering of Trudeau as a Marxist.
So I checked r/Canada to get some of my information from this one, because the news that I otherwise checked didn't have comments allowed on it, which was extremely depressing because I like reading comments and getting angry.
Yeah, like, I love it. I don't get why
and-
people are anti-comments. Bring on the comments. I love seeing retards and toxic people in the comments.
Look, if you're not getting into some form of online argument once every other week or so, you need to kind of step out of your box a little.
Yeah. I don't get into arguments.
Completely unproductive. You know it's completely unproductive. The person you're arguing with knows it's completely unproductive. But you still, you still gotta get it.
Listen, I understand the impulse to argue on the internet. You don't want the other guy to get the last word or whatever, because then it looks like they won. But what I do is I like to see someone say something stupid I disagree with. I post something very inflammatory and ad hominem in response.
Yeah.
And then I just never look at it again. I know they're seething.
Yeah.
I know they're spamming comment replies. What I want to happen, if I argue with you online, I want you to reply to me. I want you to reply because it would be funny, and it would I revel in the idea that someone out there is mad at me for making fun of them. All right, so
my classic move that I always like to end up on is I go back and forth a few times. I make it clear that I'm only messaging them in my spare time on the toilet or something like that, and then after like a few messages, if they really start putting their heart and soul into it, I'm just like, oh, you're just trolling. And then I don't say anything else. And that drives them crazy.
Yeah, I basically do that as my opening move. I do that day one.
Yeah.
Like, you're so stupid, you have to be trolling.
Yeah. Okay, but in r/Canada's comments, I did enjoy the of all the infinite things you could attack Trudeau over, you picked being a Marxist. Like, this guy is about as liberals get. He walks into a store, gets a shirt and extra medium kind of liberal. Like, there's not a damn Marxism in the poor bastard. Spare genetically.
Spare about half of his genes.
And so maybe there is some Marxism
Spare
in
his
it.
Y chromosome, as it were.
Yeah.
And not as
But
much
yeah, so yeah, it was he's accidentally fucking it up. He's breaking out of talking about inflation and housing. He's off the script, guys. Do you think that going off the script is going to work for Poilievre, or do you think he has to stick to it?
Now, I find Poilievre, despite him being my duly elected representative in Parliament, an incredibly annoying man, so I don't watch his stuff or read about him very much. What exactly was the impetus for calling Trudeau a Marxist, or was this just, like, off the cuff, just a stray?
Okay. He did have, for a full year, a pinned comment that said, woke left goes crazy when people point out the undeniable historical fact that National Socialists in Germany and Italy were, as the name proves, socialist.
National Socialists in Italy.
Yeah, the classic.
The iconic
yeah, those guys
National
didn't even
Socialists
pretend. And yeah, I had one question for this, which is the classic questions. Then why did they put the socialists in camps then?
Yeah.
Really makes you wonder.
Now,
honestly, I trust Poilievre to be like, oh, the camps they put socialists in were actually just like sailing camps. Those weren't the other camps.
Listen, pal, you're treading a little too close to actual Holocaust denial rhetoric now with the the leisure camps.
No, that's the socialist camps for the National Socialists. The other camps definitely real.
So he was accusing Trudeau of objecting to the National Socialists being socialist.
No. He didn't say that. I think that's a Spencer.
No, this is just a random Twitter thing that he had pinned.
Okay.
Just some history.
Okay.
So here, this is the quote unquote piece. Poilievre made a comment while talking to a woman who told him that in her view, Pierre Trudeau started putting this country down, and Justin Trudeau is going to put the nail in the coffin. To which Poilievre responded, "Not if we can help it. They're both Marxists."
That's awesome. I love how it's just the two Trudeaus.
Honestly,
that's it. It's just
accusing Trudeau of
their
being a
bloodline.
Marxist. Accusing Trudeau of being a Marxist is so bewildering. I legitimately have no response. I'm flabbergasted.
So I listen to a lot of Pierre Poilievre speeches. I watch quite a few of them. I mean, this is just like his normal thing, right? He always says something extremely inflammatory because it's just easy to distract with that and makes his base feel like, yeah, go get him, boss, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is just like it's a really good way to make money, basically, because it gets people riled up and happy, and instead of focusing on the political or economic issues, you can just talk about this, which doesn't matter. And since Trudeau is so unpopular, no one trusts him anyways. It just works out so well.
Yeah, I believe actually recently for the first time, Pierre Poilievre's favorability ratings exceeded Trudeau, or was it I would like to see him as prime minister exceeded Trudeau or something? Not looking good for the Liberal Party right now.
No, but like the first time in a long time, the polls have been showing that the Conservatives are winning by 12% or so against the Liberals. Like the Liberals are at risk of getting like less than 100 seats now.
Well, we all know what dogs do on polls.
And
Some
it looks like
motherfuckers
the
really
New
just want to
Democrats.
skate uphill.
Oh.
Sorry, Shrey, keep going.
I can't for the life of me understand why the Liberals have not put out ads against the Conservatives. The Conservatives have been putting out ads against the Liberals forever. They've been putting out ads talking about how awesome the Conservatives are forever. The New Democrats have started posting ads about how bad the Conservatives are. But for some reason, the Liberals are just quiet.
I believe
I don't get it.
Our first guest star, Harrison, who is going to be also our second guest star in a future episode, he had a great point. It was why didn't we three sit down and marathon The West Wing? Because The West Wing might be one of the. It's not the worst show in terms of production value or writing. It's actually pretty entertaining. It might be the worst show in terms of psychic damage done to liberals of any show. I don't know if you've seen it, Shrey.
I have not.
Okay, but the whole thing of the West Wing basically created the ideology of Barack Obama. Is like the idea of there being like a cool, hip, progressive young president that everyone likes, right? You see the parallels here with Trudeau and Obama, right? But as part of that, because he's a grown-up, he's the big, smart economist in the room, he always needs to do things by reaching across the aisle. And he always needs to be like, they need to always take the high road, right? Being crass and being an attacker, that's for the Republicans to do. That's for the Tories to do, right? Us liberals are high-minded, civilized. We are enlightened centrists. We see both sides of every issue, right? Now, I think the West Wing has destroyed the liberal ability to really go, like, you know, rolling up the sleeves, throwing out the punches.
Hard in the paint.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but in 2015, that was the liberal brand, right? It's sunny ways.
Exactly.
The entire thing that the liberals will never, ever attack anyone else.
Exactly.
Because
And
they're just so good.
They inherited... The West Wing is the grandfather of that, because the liberals got that from the Obama administration. And the Obama administration was full of diehard West Wing fans, acknowledged diehard West Wing fans, inspired by the milquetoast liberalism of the show. It really is a very important cultural product that has actually influenced world history at this point, due to its role in creating the failures of Obama's administration.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. Attack ads work. Ads always work.
Yes.
In the last election, the Trudeau Liberals did put out an attack ad, very, very late, mind you, but it worked. And it got everyone off of that Aaron O'Toole train. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why they're being so quiet now.
I think that it's going to be tough for liberals to attack Poilievre. Like, there's more than enough ammunition, but I think like a lot of liberalism right now, especially with like the Twitter left liberals, are kind of at like boy who cried wolf tier at this point, where it's like, oh, okay, what do you really want to go after Poilievre for? there's more than enough things, but he's been incredibly vague. All he does is kind of say, oh, housing, like everything notable he does is just say, oh, the housing is bad. Oh, inflation is up. Like, yes and yes. You can't really go after those, so that's the script he should stick to.
Okay,
and it's like, oh, he goes off script and what's up?
Bewilderingly, the Liberals did try to go after him for that by saying that stuff wasn't true.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Which is
Jesus
an incredible avenue of attack, like defense.
So that's what I don't remember. But they said Canada isn't broken. Canada's actually quite a great country compared to world standards.
Yeah.
Which is like objectively true, but I don't think that makes him feel better.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. Like, so you have things better. We want to keep it better. We don't want to just lose shit. As well as for a lot of people, I think what a lot of rich people fail to understand is that while they can just move around and do different things, most people can't. They're stuck in place, and their place is getting worse, and they can't leave. They're just forced to deal with that. And it is not good, but they're not getting any attention paid to them. But yeah, so what else do you go after if you're liberals? Like, oh, he doesn't understand what Marxism is. No, you can't do that, or else, you can't be defending Marxism. We're like post-Red Scare right now.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to go after him for being like a fascist or something, depending how you play your cards, you could build a very strong case that the way he goes about things and gaining popularity is very inspired by fascist parties of the past, doing a lot of very similar things. Or you could talk about what he does to or rhetorically to trans people or like gay people and stuff like that as not being with the times, or like calling them an outgroup or something. But like online liberal leftists have been calling everyone fascists for so long that like it has no weight anymore. So they're kind of stuck just doing nothing. All they can do is claim that, oh, shit's pretty good, to like rile the little base that they have, which isn't even riled anymore because they've been there for so long.
I think I may have mentioned this in the past, but you can't also just say like, no, things are good, right? Because you just sound like an asshole then if things are slightly worse even. Which it's way worse than slightly worse.
One thing, though, is interesting about it, especially, the Liberal Party, in many ways, I think, wishes it was a governing party in the United States instead of Canada.
Yeah.
And really, the fact that they have nothing to attack Pierre Poilievre on, as you said, is like a huge realization of that fact. Because in the United States, where they have the most aggressively first-past-the-post system imaginable, and there's only two viable parties, right? Democrats can kind of like buck any criticism from leftists by saying, well, would you rather the Republicans win, right? What are you going to do, vote Republican? We're your only realistic option. Whereas in Canada, if the left wing of the Liberal Party is like, we're dissatisfied with the way you're handling things, there's another major party they can migrate to.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Like in 2021 and in 2019 for that matter, just before the election, about 1 month before the election, there was a point where the Conservatives in both times were like slightly ahead. And as soon as they got slightly ahead, the Liberals put out we have to work together, guys. We have to vote strategically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works like clockwork. It just collapses into the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
So
look, what we need is a fourth, even more niche party. Slightly to the left of the NDP that does nothing but go on stage and just quote political theory on stage.
Okay, to get on stage, you need to have like 5% of the popular vote. I think is that the
they need to get exactly like 5.01% of the vote then.
No,
and never go above that, never go below.
Sorry, what's the actual number? I know to get on televised debates in Canada, you need 1% of the popular vote, and it is something like 5%.
It's 5%, or you need to be above the polls in like a certain. You have to be able to show that you'll be willing to win. I think there's 4 seats, or have a chance to win 4 seats.
So, what's the minimum number of supporters you would need to get on stage? Because, okay, so the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, right?
Yes.
They all have 1 seat each, right?
Yeah.
So you would need the majority of voters in those 3 seats, or you would need to be poised to win those 3 seats, which actually you wouldn't even need the majority of voters for. You would need like maybe like 1/5 of voters in the territories, right? And that would get you 3 seats. And I'm sure there's a few seats around that have like much lower than the theoretical 200,000 people they're supposed to have. PEI.
I wonder how many places I could go to where I could just give a good amount of people $20 and then just win seats because of it.
That's illegal.
Look, I wasn't asking.
No, this is what we have to do, guys. We have to show the we have to give the conservatives what the liberals have, right? They have like a left-wing party, which is extremist, quote unquote, that draws votes away. We got to start supporting the PPC. Get them high enough that they're considered relevant.
Yeah,
Okay.
start splitting the vote to the right.
Okay, so you need 4 seats, right?
Yep.
The least populated 4 seats have like together less than 100,000 electors. So you would need maybe like 20 to 25,000 people to get on stage with the least number of supporters. They would just need to be very efficiently placed.
Yes.
1 second. So that's $400,000. I think we can make this work. Hey guys, we're looking for sponsorships and donations.
Okay,
we'll start a Patreon. It's good. There's gonna be like a $1.50 tier, and then there's gonna be a loony and a toonie tier because we're Canadian like that, and we have to like just go with the slop. And then there's gonna be a $400,000 tier to get us elected.
For $400,000, we'll dox the rest of Spencer's house.
Yeah.
We'll release Spencer's address when we reach $400,000 a month.
Honestly, for $400,000 a month, I'd be chill with that.
Now, speaking of being chill with shit, the Federal Court of Appeals has ruled in favor of the not only ruled in favor of the Rogers-Shaw merger in face of protests from the antitrust board of the federal government, they have ordered the antitrust board to pay Rogers $13 million in recouping legal fees due to the incident.
That is insane.
Wait, can you first explain the Rogers-Shaw thing, like controversy?
So the controversy is Canada has not very many telecom companies, right?
Yeah.
We have less now. I think it was like we're down from 4 to like 3 at this point.
There's probably like half a dozen or so, something like that.
Yeah.
But 2 of them were Rogers, which is like the largest one of it. Maybe Bell is larger, but Rogers is gigantic.
No.
And Shaw, which is like, I guess, like a B tier telecommunications.
It's huge in Western Canada.
Yeah,
so it's A tier in Western.
Yeah, it's not like Rogers, Bell, or Telus, which are the entire country. Shaw is smaller, but
well, yeah, it was the 4th major option that covered a certain region, and there's also one in Quebec. So I guess we're going from 5 to 4. The one in Quebec is also acquired under this, isn't it?
No, there's more companies than those 4 companies, telecommunications.
There are more, but these are the big ones.
Yeah, so Rogers and Shaw were merging. Shaw is huge. Rogers is like a titan. It's gigantic, right? Its market cap is like tens of billions or something, right? And so Rogers purchased Shaw, and the antitrust board, which is the board responsible for ensuring that companies don't accumulate monopoly power, raised a protest and launched an investigation. And eventually, it was decided in the courts that the merger would go ahead, and the antitrust group sued for appeal, and it got kicked up to the Federal Court of Appeal, which is the one right before the Supreme Court, I believe. And the Federal Court of Appeal not only ruled in favor of Rogers-Shaw merger, but also ordered the government to pay Rogers-Shaw for the inconvenience of trying to stop the merger. And I believe there's one last step after that, but I think they've already cleared it. I think there's like an ombudsman of some kind that needs to approve mergers over a certain amount of money, but he's already given the stamp for it. So Rogers and Shaw are merging, and the federal government has to pay them for the privilege of allowing them to merge.
Yeah, I find this one particularly brutal because, like, there's a competition board for a reason, And being a part of a merger at that scale, you should know that you're probably going to end up in some trouble with the competition board and stuff like that. The what are they called?
I think it's antitrust.
Is it antitrust?
Antitrust is
Yeah,
the general
antitrust.
North American term for like
Yeah.
anti-monopoly government
Yeah.
bills. and
You
stuff.
know that that's going to be a part of it, as it should be. It is the antitrust people's job to say this. That is what they are supposed to do when something like this happens. That's just part of the process. So essentially you're punishing them for doing anything.
Yeah.
So like if something like this happens again, if a massive Canada-wide scale acquisition happens between two like monster companies, that would cause a pretty clear monopoly-like situation in an already monopoly-like telecom situation. If that is enough to get you punished, then you're just not going to do anything from now on.
Yeah, it's a chilling effect. It reduces the power of the antitrust board, not just because they've been overruled in this one case, but because they are now being like incentivized to not try again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a good week for anti-monopoly.
So a part of this as it happened was they said you can do this as long as you add a certain number of like jobs and invest a certain amount into the network. An amount of which was less than Rogers had already said they would do. So it was literally just done on Rogers' terms. We paid for the fact that anyone interfered for it, and yeah, we're down another telecom network in Canada who already has the most expensive telecom for the worst service in the world.
Yeah.
So here's some numbers. 37% is Bell, right? And then about 29% is Rogers and 17% is TELUS, which is already a majority. Shaw was a fourth power. They were at 10%. So this is just consolidating way too much. I am fascinated how one part of the government said this should be illegal. Another part of the government gave the go ahead anyways. And then I guess the third part is technically not part of the government, being the Supreme Court. But the fact that they like accept the suing of that part of government is wild.
Yeah, whatever happened to good old-fashioned medieval sovereign immunity, you know? It used to be that you couldn't sue the king or the government. And then, what was it, the English Civil War, they got rid of that stuff? Bring it back. Stop suing the government. Sick of it.
Oh well, enjoy Rogers Shaw, friends. I know I'm on Rogers.
Yeah, I can't wait to have to somehow pay even more for internet. It's getting absurd.
I'm especially surprised because people don't like Rogers. Rogers is not exactly well loved, especially after the outage last year.
That's the thing about oligopoly. It's like, sure, you don't like them. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Buy Bell? You don't like them either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just we don't like any of the companies, but we can't do anything because the fact that they're the only companies. We can't fight them. If you do get anywhere close to fighting them, you're just gonna either get fucked. What's the other the internet company that always had Tech Savvy?
Tech Savvy, yeah.
You're gonna get fucked like Tech Savvy, or you're just gonna get bought up by them the second you start doing anything notable.
So
those are your two options.
The reason why I said that is the governing body that accepted this deal is a political body, right? It's like it's run by the Liberal government. Yeah. So I would expect that, in an effort to at least keep some of their polling numbers, they would refuse this deal.
Yeah.
Because this clearly...
Especially, the government that's known for being weak would want to appear strong.
Against and they're going after Meta and Facebook and Google and all that. So I thought maybe they'll go after these guys because, fight the tech and all that. But
I feel like they aren't. They aren't because Rogers and Shaw are domestic capital. Meta is foreign capital. They can box at it for easy political points, but they are ultimately the Liberal Party. They are slaves to capitalism. They can't be like, no, we're gonna stop capital accumulation from happening in this country. They could never do that.
Yeah.
Deep sighs. Deep sighs from everyone all around on that.
Yeah.
The libertarians would be like, oh, we need more competition, not less. I guess, yeah, any, like, central planning heads would just be like, this is not that.
Yeah.
like, we should nationalize it if you're a central planning head, is what I assume you would say.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of loses. And, yeah, it's the extra 13 million just kind of spitting in their mouth a little.
I do want to take a quick second and shout out to Saskatchewan for being the last province with a centrally planned telecommunication.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? You know, literally, what can you do? Nothing, I guess.
We showed Saskatchewan. Right? Get on SaskTel. Enjoy the nationalized telecommunications.
Well, I guess telecom is just, it's more rent. So I guess what you want to do is increase the rent. Because a la Ricardo, that means the end, baby.
Acceleration.
So maybe the fact that telecom is so expensive in an accelerationist kind of way is good, question mark?
What the fuck? I'm accelerationist now. I'm Posadist now. I want the nukes to fall. Alright. Next up is strike updates.
Strike updates. Alright. So Unifor Metro strike was our first one, where full-time and senior part-time workers are going to receive an unprecedented, that's a quote, pay increase of $2 per hour within months. All workers receiving an immediate upfront $1.50, so that's $3.50 an hour, which seems small, but is actually pretty big, especially as a percentage for a lot of people working essentially minimum wages. That's up from $15 to $18.50, which is big. And yeah, there's an overall wage improvement of $4.50 per hour for full-time and senior part-time workers, with $3.20 an hour for non-senior part-time workers.
You good?
Oh, computer turning off. Hopefully I'm still here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. And yeah, the agreement covers 3,700 workers directly across 27 Metro stores across the GTA. And what does this mean in the grander scheme of things? Well, one is union support is generally pretty solid right now. I think generally 47% of people are pro-union. This will help bolster more support for that. But just for the Metro workers, one, more Metro stores will probably want to join in on the union because they'll want pay raises. And two, other Metros may have to raise their pay because that's the effect of unions raising pay, is that more people want to go to the places with better pay, and places with worse pay will get caught with people asking for more demands.
Now, I don't know about the Metro workers joining Unifor, because I believe the Metro workers are unionized. The ones that aren't Unifor are just UFCW, which is United Food and Commercial
Probably.
Workers. So maybe UFCW will go on strike.
Are they all? Or?
I'm pretty sure all the Metro shops are unionized. I'll have to check, though.
Sweet.
UFCW
I'm still waiting for the full report to drop, if it ever will. And the main reason for that is I expected one of the most immediate demands from my time in IT being behind those checkouts and those places are pretty rough, was I want to know if the cashiers will be able to sit. That's it. I think that should be one of the top 5 demands. Oh,
Spencer?
What up?
Oh, you're just sounding a little bit robotic.
Oh, am I?
We can still hear you though.
Yep.
Oh, now we can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you're back.
Oh no.
Say a sentence.
We're so back.
All right. Oh, sorry. I moved my phone. Phone.
You're back,
So
you're back. Okay.
am I good?
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah.
I'll keep my phone still here. Yeah, I hope people are able to sit. Those places are not comfortable, and they should be allowed to.
Yeah, I mean, I have no argument against that.
I can't really imagine an argument against allowing cashiers to sit. I don't really know what.
Well, I mean, the petty tyranny of being a manager, From a utilitarian standpoint.
Well, I looked it up,
and get from it.
apparently in terms of like utilitarian shit, what the reason that cashiers had to stand in the West or in like North America but not in Europe was that in Europe people were expected to bag their own groceries, and in North America cashiers were expected to bag groceries, so they had to move more. But now we don't use plastic bags. Everyone bags their own groceries. So there's no use, like there's no utility in cashier standing.
Yeah, other than I guess managers like seeing the employees stand, makes them feel important and stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes the feet hurt, makes
Yeah.
them feel superior.
Yeah.
Hey, I had to put in my work back in the day.
Yeah.
I guess you save money on chairs, like
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's the strike up.
Yeah, immediate money saved on chairs versus long-term money spent on healthcare for Canada. But there's another one, which all of my notes are gone for, which was the port strike out west. That I believe turned the minimum wage for the BC port workers to like $56 an hour, which is pretty good. So that's a decent spot to be if I had that correct and I remember that correct. Which leads to an overall article that I did on the outlook of unions. Again, all my notes are gone, so I'll try to remember the numbers. I believe it was 47% of Canadians were actively pro-union, 37% were actively against unions, and the last couple percent, I got no clue. Like, they gotta pick a side, you know?
I think in every poll, it'll always be like, I don't know, 10 to 20% of people are like, I don't know. I think 10 to 20% of people just don't know anything.
or don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I generally assume that under any decision, it's like, oh, should we throw a bunch of, like, babies into a fire pit here and there? You'll get, like, 12 to 20% of people saying, yeah, sure, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some mixture of that. Under any decision, there's always, 10 to 20% of people who just no idea what they're doing. So I try not to sweat it too much.
They're making 56
yeah,
an hour?
56, I believe.
Damn, that's
the
almost
article
enough to afford Vancouver rent.
almost enough for a one-bedroom flat in North Van.
Well,
But I think most of
that
Vancouver wasn't
interjection-
quite as bad as North Van, but it's still bad.
That interjection reminds me of the Parting Capital, where Marx is complaining about the idea of the workers' struggle and stuff like that, and how it is currently realized. Where he's like, and the grand workers' victory in Manchester this year was child labor restriction on work hours from infinite to 80 hours a week, or something like that.
If only we knew how good we have it, we
Yeah.
would stop making a podcast where we just complain.
Yeah.
No, I just checked the numbers. $56 an hour nets you $112K a year, so it's still less, but,
Okay.
Yeah, double the number and then multiply by 1,000 or something.
After the low point of the Roger Shaw merger, we've been building up. Strike updates, good news.
Wait. I'm still rocking.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to rock. So yeah, another thing about the unions and their outlook is that the NDP, people who subscribe to the NDP party think we should probably have stronger unionization.
Probably.
People who subscribe to the conservative view say we should probably have less unionization. Guys, you're not gonna believe what the liberals believe. During the entire time we've slid from, is it 49 to 39% unionization, liberals have said that we're in that Goldilocks zone, baby. Everything is fine.
I think maybe the Liberal Party...
I can't imagine having a... You're up.
I think the Liberal Party has an untapped potential base. And if you're a liberal strategist and you're listening to this, feel free to use this strategy for free. You don't need to pay me for it. But...
You sponsor the show.
Yeah, you could sponsor the show, I guess. We're not... but the... there's an untapped market of autistic people. Right? Right now, I feel like autistic people are captured by the far left and the far right. I feel like the Liberal Party could really lean into the fact that they're the party of routine, the party of regularity, of things staying exactly the same. I think the Liberal Party could make oblique references to the idea that the NDP or the Conservatives are going to go to your house and like mess with the setup of stuff on your desk or something.
They're gonna change your thermostat.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I think I was reading the Persuaders,
Yeah.
and one thing that he said is that liberals have this weird thing where they always try to pander towards people who are voting for another party. And the issue with this is it completely stops them from making anyone excited about their actual ideas.
Yeah.
And he was saying that if liberals want to have more people vote for them, they need to stop trying to pander to centrists on the right, or like get little wins for, like, I guess they in the States they already kind of get whoever on the left will vote for them, but like here maybe trying to take some from the NDP. What they should do is actually try to make their base exciting. Like make it rallyable, get people excited to be a part of their party. And their party is at its base like the party of homeowners. And I think, yeah, I guess they kind of fudged it with housing, but they just need to kind of rally around that and be like, look, we'll at least get you a house or something. We'll find a way to do it. They've lost that right now, but in general, I think that could have been a good theory to get people excited.
Well, they did that in 2015, right? They legalized weed. They're like, we're gonna make weed legal, which excited everybody.
And they actually did.
And then they were like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did it, and guess what? People fucking loved them for it. They didn't have to pander to people on the right or left. They just had to actually have their own platform and get people excited.
Yeah, and it was really the perfect thing for the Liberals to do, because they are the party of, freedom. That's their whole their whole thing is like free, not free stuff, but like freedom to do
Individual
stuff.
freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think, they need to come through with, we've finished all the prep work, we're going to do electoral reform, and start implementing it, or something, in some way, and get people excited for that, and show that it's actually happening, keep them in power, and also legalize shrooms and Molly, I think, and get those in weed shops. And I think between that, they could easily win at least one more election.
Okay, I have to say, making themselves the parties of homeowners, I guess it did get them some good results. I mean, they won like, 2 or 3 elections now.
Barely.
What it does make them is vulnerable, because what they're effectively appealing to are, like old boomers and old unionized workers who own homes now because they lived in the like Keynesian and post-war prosperity, but also it makes them vulnerable to the whims of the most schizo and kind of like banally evil class of people, which is the petite bourgeoisie, right? Like small business owners and stuff like that.
They could rally over small business, I think.
No, but those small business owners are naturally appealed to by the Conservative Party, who are really the party of small business owners, naturally, I think. But the Liberals tying themselves to homeowners means that they're always on the defensive against the Conservatives reclaiming their natural base. So they kind of have to stay appealing to the petite bourgeoisie if they don't want to risk a huge political shakeup.
Now, thinking of vulnerability, I'm gonna raise you in vulnerability. Fellas, I got a beer in my hands right now that I'm drinking and enjoying, and I need some keys.
Oh, yes. Great news, folks. Booze cruisers are taking a W as 3 Inuit men... 3 Inuit men who have been charged and found guilty of drunk driving and thus banned from driving for 3 months have sued the government of Nunavut for banning them from driving on the grounds that they are professional hunters and therefore need access to their vehicles to access hunting grounds. Now, this is very interesting.
This is why it's a good thing that we can sue the government.
Yeah. Now, there's certain like elements of this. This is a very interesting like story beyond the just barefaced hilarity of drunk drivers suing the government for drunk driving being illegal. There's some weird things tangled up in this. For one, the plaintiffs are arguing that because they are indigenous and the indigenous are guaranteed the right to like engage in traditional cultural activities, and hunting is a traditional indigenous activity, they should never be impeded from being able to hunt. Even though they actually anticipated people will be like, yeah, but your ancestors weren't driving pickups out into the ice, They say even though the hunting techniques have evolved and we now use like pickups instead of dog sleds, it does not change the fact that we should be able to hunt unimpeded as per our existing agreements with the federal government.
He's spitting.
So there's that interesting
I'm
aspect.
shocked that they didn't just skip it and say that when we had dog sleds or whatever, you were allowed to drink as you operated them, and therefore, as the technology evolved, we should be allowed to drink in our pickups.
Well, Inuit don't have a tradition per se before white people of alcohol consumption. They don't have their own alcohol production.
Oh, they were reefer cells, weren't they?
No, they weren't. They didn't smoke or drink. You have to consider the environment they lived in. What would they make alcohol out of? Where would they get marijuana from?
I'm sure that they smoked something.
It's really bad land for tobacco up there, which was the main smoking thing before white people brought marijuana.
Fuck.
So yeah,
what were they doing all the time? Just smoking pine needles?
Yeah, I don't know. They're smoking straight dirt.
Look, they got the indigenous people before our time got all of their weed from Scranton.
Yeah,
they were smoking
from the
straight
traditional
dirt.
territory of the Lenape in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
So apparently, according to this Ask Anthropology post on subreddit on Reddit, are there any traditional Inuit drugs? Apparently, it's a common question. TLDR: traditional North American polar groups would go into trances without the aid of any kind of plants or fungi.
Holy babe!
Holy awesome.
So they didn't have literally. I mean, they were literally just.
They were Harrison pilled.
They meditated their way into getting high. They were so desperate. Yeah. But the point is, drunk driving is not a traditional part of Inuit culture, and honestly, the fact that they are using pickups and guns is a very strong argument for them being banned from being able to drive. It would be less bad if they were hunting with clubs, arrows, and dog sleds and drinking. But guns plus pickups plus alcohol probably will make the Inuit community at large less safe if these three men are allowed to continue driving their pickups.
Oh, so they haven't won the case yet?
No, this case is still in the court.
Okay.
This case just made headlines instantly for being very funny conceptually.
Yeah. This is, I have to say, a pretty rough, I'll say, cultural look, because it truly does make them sound a little American.
Well, you have to understand, they are,
which I don't
Americans.
think is the aim. Yeah. Well, it's in the way that they don't want to be, as far as my understanding is.
I think they.
But what do I know, really?
I feel like a lot of them have made their peace with it. I mean, what can you do about it? It is a really prickly case because the indigenous people do have a right to hunt that is guaranteed to them, and this does impede those guys' right to hunt. But it also
I have a feeling
safer.
The answer is just going to be stop drinking while you hunt.
Yeah.
You can do all of that, just please don't be drinking while you're doing it.
Well, that's the point of the driving ban, is to get them to not be drunk driving for a while. And I guess if you are really in tune with Inuit traditions, the Inuits are very communitarian people, right? So you should have a buddy who does not have a charge right now you could be driving with.
Yeah. Get a DD.
Yeah.
Careful, guys. We're trying to win the seats up north.
Oh, that's true. We don't want to alienate our base right now.
Yeah.
Look, that's what the $20 is. That's where that comes in.
But also, from the perspective of them being professional hunters, which is one of the complaints, you could really make that argument for anyone charged with drunk driving who has to drive to their workplace. It's not
but you don't need a right to hunt, right? Outside of the indigenous groups?
No one has a right to hunt outside of them.
Yeah. I
mean, you technically hunting is a privilege. It's not hard to be able to hunt in Canada. It's a pretty brief licensing process, and I think you have to pay $100 a year or something for it. but I believe the indigenous people are the only ones with rights to hunt. Us regular white people, per se, must, or it's not hard for us to hunt, but it's not like a right. It could be taken from you. But yeah, prickly situation. I kind of do want these guys to win. It is pretty funny. Scrappy underdogs. You can't help but cheer for them.
Yeah, this one, I gotta say, I'll cheer for them, but I really have a feeling it's gonna go nowhere. If this does happen, I want to know. In fact, I already know what the guy looks like, who will say I have a legal right to go to work every day, and you can't impede that when he's caught drinking and driving on his way to work.
There will be a sudden increase in numbers of people who are like, oh, I'm like a tenth of indigenous.
Yeah. If drinking and driving becomes an indigenous right, then everyone will suddenly be 2% indigenous with a 2% margin of error.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the Inuit have it bad enough. They should be allowed to drink and drive. We took everything from them. We're ruining their traditional way of life by melting the ice caps, and they have to live up there.
Yeah, give them something fun to do.
Yeah.
So the Canadian government spends a lot of money in incentivizing to live in the Arctic. So you get like a lot of vacation days, you get a lot of money just to live up north, especially above the Arctic Circle. And this is to ensure Canadian sovereignty, to prevent Russians from just walking over like it's Russian now.
The old flagpoling controversy.
What we should do is just legalize it in the north and use that as an incentive. Yes, and use that as an incentive.
Everyone would move north.
People are going to move north anyway.
Toronto, Vancouver would become wastelands. Hubcaps would be getting stolen.
Okay.
Well, let's move on to
news.
Yeah.
Okay. So India is planning or hinting at changing their name from India to Bharat. How do you pronounce it, Shrey?
Bharat.
Bombay.
Bharat?
Bharat.
Like a TH sound at the end?
Yep, TH at the end and BH in the beginning.
Okay, Bharat.
For what it's worth, Bharat, that's perfect. For what it's worth, they more or less have already done it. This is a G20 picture from yesterday.
Yes, I do know that they handed out letterhead to the visiting countries with Bharat written on it, and which prompted like confusion from other countries present. I know there's a bill tabled in Indian Parliament to change the name, like officially. Bharat is already an official name of India. It's just like a secondary name. They want to change it to the main one.
What was the third one again? Hindustan.
Yeah. Which just means
that shit's unreal.
Hindustan just means like country of the Hindus in.
It's a very old name. Like it was used for a while, but
it's what Europeans called India before they just went there in the 16th century. It's what they would. Yeah. It's a very old timey name, but I think the official reason given was that. Bharat is the traditional name, and BJP is big into reactionary stuff. But from what I heard, a lot of people are accusing them, especially Indian liberals, of this move happening now because the liberal opposition created a group to take down Modi that was an abbreviation for India. Let me see if I can find the name.
So generally speaking, just for anyone who's interested, Hindustan is a very European name for India. Like the biggest newspaper in India, I believe, is the Hindustan Times, which is an English newspaper. Bharat is actually the more Hindu. Bharat is like the religious name for India. It's like it has a much deeper Hindu basis.
Yeah, here we go.
And I think that's kind of what they're going for with I mean, this is a long time ago now, but Bombay to Mumbai was a similar vein of kind of a decolonization thing almost.
Yeah.
Modi's rivals say the change has been forced by the new opposition alliance formed by 28 parties in July called India, or Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance, to take on BJP in parliamentary elections next year. So the opposition is accusing Modi of cynically changing the name now in order to make the opposition look unpatriotic at election time.
You know what? My favorite part of the sentence, Bennett, was when you said there's the alliance is 28 parties.
Is this is India proportional representation?
No, it's first past the post.
28 parties. Well, I guess they've got a lot of people there and a lot of seats.
That's one alliance, not even the alliance which supports Modi, and then there's not even like the other people who are just neutral.
India political parties. Let's look this up.
It's very. I know it's very, very region based. Like every region, because there's like I think 100 languages or so which are used in India.
Okay.
And because of that, there's so many different regional parties.
I'm sure what will happen is the Bharat bill will pass. India will change its name, and then the new part, the BJP will lose. The Liberals will take power. They'll change it back to India, and then it'll flip flop like Myanmar, Burma. That's what I think will happen. like every 10 years, they're going to change the name of the country.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just that's an interesting little international tidbit that's going on right now. Another interesting thing that's going on, Argentina has decided to go just the opposite of pink tide. I guess this would be yellow tide because a libertarian has been elected president of Argentina.
Wait, was he elected?
Oh no!
I think he just was nominated like for the second.
Who let the CIA cook again?
No, I don't think he won. I think he just I think he just nominated.
He won the primary for his party. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So anyways, his ideas are interesting. His main thing he's famous for is dollarization, which is the ideology of making the US dollar like the only currency in the world. I think he wants to switch Argentina to the US dollar, which is not an unheard of move for third world countries suffering from extreme inflation. I think Zimbabwe did the same thing in the 90s. But yeah, he's raised some eyebrows for having some unusual ideas. Shrey shared some polling data. Is this the people he's going up against?
Yeah, so Javier Milei is the one who's winning right now.
And Sergio Massa. So not only did he win the primary, he's poised to win the presidency now.
Yeah. He's the one who calls taxing basically raping of people.
That's a classic.
Everything I don't like is traumatic.
Okay, the classic libertarian complaint is that everything they don't like is either rape or slavery, except rape and slavery, which should be legal.
Yeah. Hey guys, watch out for how much money is getting taken away from you in terms of taxation, which goes towards services and all of that. Do not look towards markups and rates of profit, which don't go towards you in any way
or even
possible.
Wage labor, where you are routinely stolen from.
Yes. Something that is defined as paying you less than you are worth.
Yeah.
Do not look towards that. It is taking money away from you just to go to someone else, where this is taking money away from you and at least a percentage of it goes towards services that benefit you. Only one of these things is purely evil.
Shrey, the poll Shrey sent has some obscene margin for error bars, though. Is this like an aggregate, or is this just like a really shitty poll?
This is just a really crappy poll.
Because there's one undecided is either is as low as 3%, but could be up to 19%.
Let me find it. But Milei is interesting. I mean, Argentina's going through a really, really bad time, right? Oh, this is an aggregate poll. This is just like a general polls. But Milei, like Argentina, so Canada has an inflation rate of approximately 2 to 3% right now, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah. We're on record as not believing that number.
Yeah.
The Argentine official inflation is 115%.
Yeah, and that's the official one.
Well, that sounds closer to Canada's real inflation.
Argentina's real inflation is probably like 1,000%.
Yeah.
No, they're going through
God, 115% inflation. That must be insane. I really hope everyone there is getting a 116% raise.
Yeah. It's really, really bad right now in Argentina. It's a very, very unstable government itself. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very long, complex history. But it's just interesting to see Argentina going this route, while Brazil just elected a very staunchly Is he Democratic Social or
I think Lewis is
Socialist
just Social
Democrat? I keep forgetting.
I know. Okay. I mean, Evo Morales is like a democratic socialist, and then you got Maduro, who's like a communist and stuff. I mean,
and then Gabrielle in Chile,
and our girl in Ecuador.
Ecuador.
Yeah. Luisa Gonzalez.
How's that looking? Are there any updates yet, or are we just chilling?
I mean, the runoff isn't until October, so.
Oh, okay. We got some time.
Yeah.
We'll do a special when she wins.
If she wins, we'll send her staff like an invitation. And
yeah. Pull up to the show.
We'll offer her a one-on-one interview with Shrey, who's our only Hispanophone host.
Barely.
And then what we'll do is we'll have Shrey as the translator for her, and then he'll have to tell us what she's saying, and then we'll tell him stuff to say back.
Listen, my Spanish is like a couple sentences.
I think it would be a pretty
honestly,
funny
I think one thing that has been interesting about this episode is the fact that we have kind of wrapped up a couple, not loose ends, but a couple stories, I'll say.
Yeah.
Like the BC port strike that we covered before is now over, and we've been able to cover what happened. Same with the metro strike we've covered a few times. There's like a lot of things to kind of keep tabs on, and that it's kind of a cool feeling. As this keeps happening, maybe I will try to get some people doing the strikes on the show just to say some shit. Hopefully we can get at least, 3 or 4 more subs so that we can be considered popular enough.
I think maybe we should sell out.
But yeah.
We should
maybe we should sell out.
We should, in exchange for being boosted, we should offer our services to become the official podcast of a political organization. Just put some feelers out.
Yeah.
See if anyone's
maybe we should invite the Metro executive, not the strikers, the other side.
Oh shit. Yeah. We should get Metro managers represented on this podcast. And encourage them to make sure that they stay standing.
Alright, well, I think that's everything we got for this week. Thanks for listening.
I think so. We'll look into getting $400,000 raised by next weekend. We'll update you guys on it. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.